Good morning. I'm John Tuller, a member of the African American Men of Westchester. On behalf of our president, Eric Eller, and the entire membership, it is my honor to welcome each of you to our virtual Brotherhood breakfast. Today's topic focuses on navigating the COVID job market. But before we go there, let me tell you a little bit about us. We're an all-volunteer nonprofit 501c3 organization founded in 1987. Our organization is composed of African American males who have distinguished themselves in various professions and have made significant contributions to multiple civic and community-based organizations. We're a group of men who are dedicated to helping address issues related to education, youth empowerment, domestic violence awareness, and environmental justice. Our goal is to design activities and provide programs that enrich the lives of young people and foster economic development in order to build strong communities that improves the lives of all county residents. But much of what we do cannot be done without the support of our sponsors and partners. Entergy, Con Edison, BYB, the business of your business, the White Plains Housing Authority, the law office of Mayo Bartlett, and individual donors like you. Today we have an outstanding group of expert panelists who will share their insight on what's happening in the job market during the time of COVID. But with that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our longtime friend, co-partner, and moderator of today's seminar, John Ravitz, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Business Council of Westchester. John oversees the Business Council's legislative, government affairs, and community relations. He plays a key role in developing and expanding membership services. Prior to joining the Business Council, John, who is a former New York State Assemblyman, was Chief Operating Officer of the Greater New York region of the American Red Cross and Chief Executive Officer of the Westchester County branch. He also served as the Executive Director of the New York City Board of Elections. As a community advocate, John has organized more than 60 town hall meetings on a wide range of issues. He's the recipient of numerous awards. John, I now turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, John, and we want to welcome again everyone to the AAMW Brotherhood Conference. My name is John Ravitz. I'm the Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer for the Business Council of Westchester, the county's largest business membership organization that focuses on economic development and advocacy. We have always been so proud to be a partner of the AAMW each year as they've put together so many important breakfasts, bringing key stakeholders from around the country to talk to in Westchester County, and the work that the AAMW does on a daily basis is so important. Today's topic, navigating the COVID-19 job market, is one that we thought would be so important to be able to bring to our audience. The world has changed. All of us in all of our different sectors have had to pivot, and we wanted to put together a panel of experts today who really are on a daily basis continuing to work to help improve the economic climate in Westchester County during these unsettling times. Let me introduce our panel. And again, we're very excited to have them here. Deborah Novak. Deborah is the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation within the Westchester County Office of Economic Development, where she directs the Element 46 Incubator Program and oversees the Bioscience Accelerator Program. In addition, she looks for opportunities to grow the entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem in Westchester County. Tom Kleiner has been the Executive Director of the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board since 2018. He's responsible for directing all aspects of the workforce development and career center system, including program development, staffing, operations, budgeting, and fiscal management. He partners with economic development agencies, academic institutions, non-for-profits, and business partners to identify hiring needs and skill gaps and optimizes opportunities for job seekers in Westchester and Putnam County. Joe Kenner began his career as an underwriter for Chubb & Son and then moved into the insurance risk management as an analyst for Lehman Brothers. He then worked with PepsiCo in a number of roles, including treasury manager and sales strategy manager. And in 2010, Joe joined Westchester County as a senior advisor for the government operations. In 2014, Joe was appointed the Deputy Commissioner of the county's Department of Social Service, and he also has the distinction of being the first African-American elected as a village trustee in his community of Portchester, where he served as a deputy mayor from 2011 to 2012. Joe joined Grayston in 2018 as president and CEO. His innovative leadership experience and ability to collaborate with diverse stakeholders ensures stellar services provided in Southwest Yonkers. Joe Leek is the owner and president of Leek Ventures Incorporated, a human capital consulting firm committed to helping companies attain and retain top talent. A former executive of IBM, Joe has more than 20 years of marketing, sales, consulting, and strategic alliance management in IT, education, and HCM. And along the way, Joe has been a founding or a key member of several for-profit and non-profit ventures in technology, education, and healthcare. Letitia Hamlet-Carver. Dr. Carver is the division coordinator for the Division of Workforce Development and Community Education at Westchester Community College. Dr. Carver has over 10 years experience in workforce development operations, programs development, and grant development and management. And prior to joining WCC, she spent 6 years with the County Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board, where she was instrumental in securing millions of dollars in public workforce grants for youth. Those were for youth whose barriers to employment and the reentry unemployed and underemployed, dislocated and incumbent workers. Dr. Carver, thank you for joining us. I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Because obviously your students are ones that probably never imagined that they would be living through what we've seen in 2020 with this pandemic. How have you begun to talk to them, work with them, give them some sort of a game plan, if you will, for what the future is going to look like?
Well, Westchester Community College continues to provide accessible, high quality, and affordable education to meet the needs of our most vulnerable populations. And at the core of our mission, we're providing access to those populations. The pandemic has heightened our response and a responsibility to ensure that those students have access. So some of our students are frontline workers because a lot of the students who attend WCC are either full-time or part-time workers. So while pivoting to remote, we had to provide holistic support such as laptops, Wi-Fi access, then moving to Zoom classroom and providing them with support to be able to access those things, along with focused support programs that remove the barriers to success by embedding wraparound services like counseling, tutoring, and advising on a remote basis.
And what has been the morale of your students? I mean, what are they able now? They've had to transition as everyone has, and we'll talk to a little bit more about the new virtual world. Are you seeing that they are able to move forward? Are there some obstacles that you're still working with them to try to have them as much success as possible?
Yeah, I think we did a really good job at meeting our students where they're at. And that includes providing that access to internet and the hardware to be able to go onto the classes. And like anybody else, we're all affected by the pandemic, rather being home and not having the ability to come in person and gather, which is always a boost to morale when we have the opportunity to be around others. So pivoting to a remote basis, I'm sure it did affect the morale, but being in it and continued support through faculty, administration, and teaching supports that effort to produce, to make them, to see them through, to get through to the end.
And Tom Kleiner, I think anyone who ever walked into your office would see all the activity that's happening, for people working on their resumes to using your computers to having classes on how to prepare for an interview. Again, the world has changed. Tell me what you and your team have been doing to try to, again, get people ready for job employment in the post-COVID world.
Well, thanks, John, and thanks to the AAMW for the opportunity to be with all of you, a great panel, and hopefully people can take away a few things and have some interaction with us while they're in their homes or wherever they are these days, getting their information. And you know what's ironic, John, about this? Latasha will remember this. At the height of the last recession, in our offices, you could barely get in the door when that recession hit, because people were here, as you said, they're trying to get assistance, training, connection with our counselors, either us, meaning the Workforce Development Board here in Westchester Putnam, or the New York State Department of Labor, where we share space on Bloomingdale Road. because of the pandemic, everything's changed. And on the one hand, as Latasha alluded to, we're reaching out to some of our existing customers. We're entertaining new customers virtually, connecting with them on the phone and through forums like this with Zoom calls and other ways to impart training where we can. And they really appreciate that contact. But there's also a whole group of people, we're sure, who are just waiting for this to break. And then it's going to be really a whole new world, when that opens up. We're going to have to figure out a different way to the workforce system to do business, because there's going to be, at least initially, such a backlog of unemployment insurance cases and those who need training. We're going to do more of this kind of work than we ever did before. The good news, and I know we'll talk maybe a little later, but there are virtual tools that people can even use right now in terms of getting additional training through coursework and through job linkage that weren't available, even in March of this year. And that's one of the, if not maybe the only, benefit of having to go through this pandemic, that we had to think about doing things in a different way. But ultimately, it may actually expand, not contract, the opportunities that we can share with our job seekers.
We have two Joes on the panel, so I'm going to break them up, but I'll start with Joe Kenner. Joe, obviously, Grayston already works with such a vulnerable population. And again, as we've moved through this pandemic, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing, and what are some of the priorities that you and your team are putting into place to get the folks that you work with ready to the post-COVID world?
Yeah, it's funny. The theme seems to be access. You've heard it from Dr. Carver and you've heard it from Tom. And for 40 years, that is what Grayston has been providing to the folks of Southwest Yonkers. It's access to employment. As you know, we're a hybrid social enterprise. We have a for-profit bakery here at Southwest Yonkers, but we also have a nonprofit that provides life skills and occupational training to the community, as well as community wellness programming. But in particular, our hiring innovation of open hiring, where essentially if a person wants to be a baker at our bakery, all they have to do is put their name on a list. And when the next job becomes available, they get it automatically. No questions asked, no background checks, no interviews. And if anything, COVID, the social unrest that we've seen, highlights the need for employment. Because with employment, you get access to healthcare, but more importantly, you get access to dignity through work. You get belonging. You get to fulfill whatever your life calling is. So that is what it is heightened for us. So I don't see it so much as a challenge as an opportunity to really talk about the need for hiring and employment innovations in our economy, particularly at the entry level. One of the great things about being an essential business during this whole pandemic, we operated from March until today nonstop, literally nonstop, because being a part of the Ben & Jerry's Unilever global supply chain, it's been a tailwind for us as people are snacking all over the world. And our people have been working. And again, it highlights that need for folks to be employed, to be a part of something, while at the same time making sure that they're safe. And I would say that was the challenge for us, because there was no playbook for how to operate in this environment. So we really had to, and the other term is pivot, and being agile in terms of retrofitting both of our organizations for PPE, dispensers for sanitizers, protocols for distancing and wearing masks and closing up conference rooms and moving to Zoom and team meetings. All that's been a big change for us. And in that sense, it was a challenge, because for us particularly, this is a people-facing business. So to suddenly move to virtual, that it requires some getting used to. But again, it's about pivoting and being agile in this particular environment.
And Deborah Novak, you've done such a fabulous job with the Element 46 incubator program, and BCW is proud to be working with you on that. But obviously, as you're looking now into how this next, class of folks who are going to be participating in the program, what are some of the things that you're going to have to do a little differently, or some of your strategies that you're looking to put into place to get people ready post-COVID?
Thanks, John. Well, Cohort 2 had just launched literally on March 2nd. We gathered them together for sort of a kickoff orientation session. And patient number 1 in New Rochelle was announced that afternoon. So that was our only face-to-face meeting of the second cohort of Element 46, we did the whole program remotely immediately after that. And I was worried that it would make it difficult for the cohort to develop the kinds of trusted bonds and sense of camaraderie and support that you really want to generate in a cohort. But actually, it was pretty seamless. It really went very, very well. And we graduated those startups, I don't know, a month or two ago. And I'm just in the process of gathering and reviewing applications for the third cohort. But I think the most important thing that we're seeing in this crazy time, and it's happening everywhere, not just in Westchester, it's been well documented in the press, is that people look in situations like this to start a business. And there could be many reasons for that. They maybe always wanted to, and this level of disruption just gives them the impetus that they need. Or it could be that they had a job that is gone, it's evaporated, they can't go back to their job because they're busy with homeschooling or with caring for someone, or they're worried about their health. And so we've launched a program, it's called Launch 1000. Our idea is that we can help 1,000 Westchester residents jumpstart their financial stability in their household by getting some entrepreneurial training and vetting their idea and getting it out into the marketplace and starting a business. So that's really our big focus right at the moment. The program is Launch 1000. Applications are open right now. About 200 people have already gotten started in the program, and we're getting amazing feedback. So I'm really happy about that possibility to help people.
And I think because all of our panelists have so many important programs that they're overseeing, I'm sure the AAMW will be posting the helpful links to reach out to all of you on their website. Let me turn to Joe Leek, who actually interfaces with businesses who are looking for employment. Again, as we move into this uncharted waters that we find ourselves in, what are you hearing about hiring plans? What are some of the industries that are obviously going to need people right away? Or, and again, what would some of your suggestions be to folks who are looking to go into those sectors?
Thank you, John, and thanks to the AAMW for including me in this panel. So for the past 5 or 6 years, I've run a staffing agency in Westchester County, and I'm interactive with all of you in that role in trying to help place people into jobs. I've taken that now, and as has been mentioned a few times, I've had to pivot. So now focus more on the consulting side. And John, to your question, I still see a level of hiring going on across the needs, but of course, as mentioned, there needs to be a change in innovation and testing. One of the projects that a small not-for-profit targeting human empowerment, and we just ran our first proposal of women who now have been certified in certain technologies, curriculum developed for them based on input from partner companies. And so the hope is that as we move forward with that program, we'll be able to place directly into that really speaks to some of the minor role I'm going to add, and that is to look at innovative ways to improve technology, job skills training, in the programming that I offer to partner companies, so that we can identify those folks who are looking to identify folks who are in need of job skill training, and then having an opportunity to place them.
Okay, thank you. And again, folks, and I hate to sound like a broken record when I keep talking about uncharted waters and what we've all been having to go through, but the world of doing things virtually, as we're doing it this afternoon, is one that, again, is going to and has had to be part of everybody's daily life now. For all of your programs, I'd love just to get a sense of, again, the virtual world, what you see in terms of some of the things that people who are going to be looking for employment are going to need to be prepared for, in terms of interviews, in terms of being able to have a meeting and be part of a meeting. that they may never have been done before in this format. So some of the training that's happening, Tom, let's start with you, and then we'll work around. Everyone can jump in, but I really think obviously this is going to be a new way for people to be prepared to have a daily work experience.
And some of the core services that we've provided physically in the past, resume writing assistance, interviewing skills, computer technology enhancement or training, that has continued somewhat sporadically on a virtual basis. All the workforce directors in the state are trying to figure out the best way to get the most to people who really need it. But I will say one thing about this technology that I've heard a number of times from professionals in the field, and that is that since so much of our interactions are through Zoom or WebEx or other similar technologies, including interviewing more and more, it's really important for job seekers particularly to become, number one, comfortable with it in terms of things like this, like where you may or may not like the paintings that are behind me on the wall, and somebody may advise, have a blank wall, but at least have a discussion with others, test it out, get some feedback from friends and family about what makes sense. Make sure that that you present yourself, and I'm really speaking to job seekers now, particularly the younger people. Make sure you present yourselves the way that you would if you were coming into an office in downtown White Plains for an interview, because it's really the same thing, of course. So, so the thing is to practice those technological skills, make sure everything's working right, and do a few practice sessions. That's one of the things that's important. And related to the younger people, I just want to mention something very specific that we're still doing, and that is in Yonkers and in Mount Vernon. Particularly for those between 18 and 24, there are two particular job training programs that are still working. One is called Strive, the other is called the Westchester Young Adult Reentry Program. And it's particularly for those who may have had contact in some way with the criminal justice system. And those programs are ongoing. They haven't stopped because of the pandemic, just as our summer youth employment program over the summer was able to keep working. So generally speaking, anybody who has interest in any of those can just contact me at the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board. Westchester Putnam One Stop is our website. Thank you.
And Dr. Carver, I mean, again, with your students, obviously students today are much more prolific in in social media and electronic devices. But again, what are you seeing of some of the things that really gaps that need to be filled to get people ready for the future, if this is going to be the way that they are going to have to apply for a job or actually do their work on every day?
Sure. Interestingly enough, Tom mentioned some of the programs that the WIB is currently running. We at WCC, we partnered with the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board to produce a program that's called the Westchester Healthcare Career Pathways Network. And that program launched in September. And it launched remotely with those students 18 to 24, some older, living in the cities of Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and Yonkers. And part of that program is that job readiness component, those soft skills, those niche skills. Having the ability to communicate and effectively interview with employers, along with a 3-credit course that gives them an introductory into the college, and then employer partnerships with like Montefiore. So that employer partnership that we have embedded in that program, meaning Montefiore is actually facilitating a day during that program. They're introducing them to those hiring, what's needed to speak with hiring managers, how to conduct themselves on Zoom, because it's new, right? Everything's new. It's a change. We're doing something different. So they're teaching the students at the same time who's participating in these programs how to interview. And when Montefiore comes in, it's an interview from the start, because then they place them in the externship, right? So that externship, they have to interview for, and they're interviewing through a Zoom format. So building up to that, they're learning the soft skills, they're learning interviewing strategies, they're learning the proper background, they're learning how to, time themselves, also to position themselves in a place that might might not have enough space to be able to conduct the interview, or if they have children at home. So that's been very important. That's been a very important of the job readiness piece, the soft skills, and even within the college in our career and technical education division and career services, their focus is on soft skills. What are the soft skills that are needed to keep the job, right? We provide technical skills, right? That's needed, the credentials, the short-term workforce credentials, the long-term credentials, the associate's degree. We prepare them to go into a bachelorette training afterwards, but we're also giving them the soft skills that are needed to keep the job. And I'm sorry, I'm just say one more thing really quickly. Also, and I'm coming back to the Workforce Development Board and the activities that they do. They also have a soft skill training called READY, right? And READY is for respect. The curriculum encompasses respect, enthusiasm, be dependable, the ability to communicate and articulate. And so soft skills is a major component for everybody, for Joe, the employer, for the externship, the entrepreneurial spirit, for Mr. Leak, and for Tom Kleiner. Everything we're doing is not only focused on those hard skills, but we're also embedding those soft skills into our programming.
And Joe Leak, let me just turn it on to the employer side as they're preparing for this new workforce in this virtual world. What are you seeing as some of the key things that they're going to have to focus on and adapt to?
Well, I think you hit it on the head in terms of the soft skills. That's one thing that a lot of companies are asking for, and now being able to focus on and put into place programs that would help identify those, training. So one of the things I talk with companies about is what are they providing in terms of professional self-care programs, support programs, if you will, when employees get to work, so that they're not only able to get the job, but also retain the job. And so there are lots of programs. Also, just coming back to your first question, talking about industries that are still hiring. And, seeing things like that involve transportation delivery, still hiring, healthcare practice, lots of jobs. And so you get people who are who maybe don't have the skills for those jobs, but have skills like customer service, build skills like project management or coding through the online courseware. As Tom mentioned, the Department of Labor has launched the Coursera, and so free, folks can take coursework, get certified, and then apply for it.
Great. And Joe Kenner, I know we have to wrap up soon. This went too quickly, but talk to us about some of the priorities that you're looking forward to do in 2021 for your clients, as well as for the real mission that you're serving now with your model of getting people jobs, no questions asked.
Yeah, well, the whole idea behind open hiring, like I said, is to make these opportunities available. But I do want to touch on a couple of things, both from the employee standpoint and the employer standpoint, going back to something Dr. Carver said, how the etiquette has really changed in this virtual environment. And I can't stress that enough, particularly with the population that we work with. We're just trying to get folks used to just the traditional interviews, but now those have gone by the wayside, and folks are actually doing more interviews online. And I could give you from experience, when we would do mock interviews with folks or actual interviews with folks, I would be interviewing folks that may have present themselves decently, but they may be in their bedroom without their bedmate. Or there may be a background that's not properly set up, that has a professional environment or doesn't detract from what you're trying to say. So it is so critical how we have to really focus on how the etiquette has changed for this new environment, how we're interviewing from a virtual standpoint. But from the employer standpoint, one of the things that we've done, and it's always been about innovation for us and how we look at HR differently. And what most employers might want to start thinking about is we've actually started looking at grief counseling. Particularly being in this area of Yonkers, that's, I believe, is still orange. A lot of our folks have lost folks that to COVID, or are just dealing with the pressure and the anxiety and the uncertainty of COVID, it may be good to look into just mental health services for your employees, just to make sure that they're okay and they can fully come to work and be present and not have to worry about the safety of their family, or help them through the grieving process if they've lost someone. Those are all things that just help, like, that gives folks a community within the workplace, because a lot of folks, particularly the ones we work with, don't have that social capital. So we're making that available to them through the innovations that we're doing within human resources. So we're going to continue to build upon that.
And I think the mental health topic could be a panel all to itself, and we will have to focus on that. Deb, we're gonna end with you. But the true spirit of an entrepreneur is someone who has a passion and a vision and wants to make that vision and passion become a reality. And we've all been dealt with some harsh realities over the last 10 months. As you move forward, putting your programs together, what's your message to especially young people who do have that passion and vision that want to start their own careers?
Well, I would say that there are such wide and deep resources here in the county to help you get started with a business. It's not just the programs that we offer here right at the Office of Economic Development, but there are many other great organizations. There's SCORE and the SBDC and WEDC, and there's valuable networking to be done at the BCW and the WCA, and there's the Professional Women of Westchester, and there's so many acceleration and incubation programs and co-working spaces. So I guess what I would say to someone who I define an entrepreneur as someone who has a vision that's beyond the resources they currently control, right? And so they're trying to make a reality out of an idea that it's not so simple. So anyway, I would say the best thing that they can do is get the training they need, get support from us or another organization around the county, get mentorship, build a community, build your network, and don't give up.
Well, on behalf of the AAMW, we want to thank this panel, because as Westchester reemerges from this pandemic, it's going to be leaders like all of you who are going to play such a pivotal role in partnering with all of us to move forward. So we want to thank Deborah Novak, Dr. Letitia Hamlet-Carver, Joe Kenner, Tom Kleiner, and Joseph Leek for being with us this afternoon. Again, I am sure the AAMW will have all of the links to the wonderful programs that you've heard about today on their website. And we thank you for being with us today. Please remain safe. Please keep your family safe. And thank you very much.
Thank you for that informative and uplifting discussion. I'm sure that many of our participants now have a better understanding of how to cope in this environment. Again, thanks to all of our panelists: John Ravitz, Business Council of Westchester; Joe Kenner, President and CEO of Grayston; Dr. Latasha Hammett-Carver, Westchester Community College; Joe Leek, President of Leek Ventures Incorporated; Deborah Novick, Director of Entrepreneurship, Westchester County; Tom Klein, Executive Director, Westchester Putnam Workforce Development. And thanks to each of our committee members who did an outstanding job in putting this amazing and informative program together: Wally Harrison, Committee Chair; Bernard Toms, Eric Eller, Charles McFarland, Tony Epps, Doug Dixon, Hassan Bilal, and John Tuller; Kim Watson of Novature Weddings and Events. And thanks for tuning in and giving us your continued support of AMW's effort to make Westchester County a better place for all. Together, we can make a difference.